Your boos mean nothing.
I've seen what makes you cheer.
Rick Sanchez.
How to stop caring what people think of you. If you're anything like me, then you've led a life that's been too heavily influenced by the opinions of others. If you're watching this, then I imagine you're at the point where you need to break free from this way of thinking so you can live your life by your rules and your values. It's good that you're taking a step in the right direction by watching this, and I hope you have the courage to take action on some of the things discussed throughout this video. I'm sure you've asked yourself questions like, why do I care so much about what other people think of me? And why do I let people I barely know have so much influence over my life? Hopefully, you don't feel like you're alone in this fight. Many of us live a life that is fixated on what others are thinking about us. As you well know by now, this way of thinking and living will suffocate you. Constantly worrying about what other people think of you will crush your ambitions, goals, individuality, and happiness. This short video covers why we have a tendency to care what other people think of us, why it's insane, and how to make some big shifts in your life that will set you on the path to being free from the opinions of others.
We are social creatures. It's human nature to care what other people think of us. We wonder what people will think of our clothes, body, hairstyle, profile picture, car, and so on. It's become this weird obsession in our society because we're always trying to impress everyone else. Not only are we being fake and ignoring our own inner voice by saying things we don't really believe, but we're also buying things we can't afford to impress people we don't even like. What's worse is that many people aren't even fully aware that they're doing this. We try to impress each other by saying what we think other people want to hear instead of letting our authentic inner voice guide us. We post our best pictures, our new possessions, and our perfect life on social media because we want people to accept us. Many of us walk on eggshells, suppress our true selves, and conform in order to fit in, and it's absolutely exhausting. It's mentally exhausting to keep up this game. It's so much more stressful caring what other people think rather than just doing, saying, and being whatever you want. Everyone cares what other people think because it's ingrained in us. We are social creatures. Unfortunately, the logic behind this thinking is outdated. Sure, when we were in small groups of tribes thousands of years ago, likability and fitting in were vital to our acceptance, status, survival, and ranking within the tribe. But today, this is not the case. In fact, this way of thinking has the opposite effect and can hurt us. Worrying too much about what other people are thinking can become a self-fulfilling prophecy because it begins to impact the way you behave. It has to stop. When it comes down to it, your opinion of yourself is so much more relevant to you than their opinion. So, how do you get to the place where you care more about your own opinion than someone else's? As with anything, the first thing you need to understand is why this is happening to you in the first place. How it starts and why. As babies and young children, we're very responsive to other people's reactions. Watch a baby or young child, and you'll see that other people's emotions, actions, and reactions deeply influence their own emotions, actions, and reactions. So, from a very early age, we learn that the opinions and reactions of others really matter. They matter a lot, and that idea is deeply rooted in our psyche. Next comes elementary school. As kids in elementary school, our young, feeble minds aren't really ready to deal with the social complexities of the world. Children learn that if they conform and follow those around them, they won't be picked on by other kids, and they'll be safe. We learn to be like the other kids and keep some of our wild opinions to ourselves, to a certain degree, of course. Kids that are different are usually picked on, so most kids avoid any kind of extreme behavior that will make them stand out. As we get older, we begin to develop our own thoughts and opinions. But sadly, most of us keep them quiet because it's what we have always done since childhood, and we just don't know any better. We care so much about what others will think that many of us don't speak our mind because we don't want to be labeled as different. We just want to fit in. There are outliers, of course, but for the most part, we're afraid of being ridiculed or cast out by others, so we conform to the opinions of the masses. We try to be liked by everyone, and we're highly dependent on the opinions of others. I'm guilty of this too. I've said things that I didn't really believe just because it was the socially accepted opinion. Have you? Your self-image and insanity. As we grow up, we develop a self-image. This self-image is how we see ourselves and how we want others to see us too. If you consider yourself a nice person or a people pleaser, you have a very altruistic self-image. This altruistic self-image requires constant maintenance and external validation in the form of praise and approval. You want evidence that this ideal self-image that you've created is accurate, so you're constantly looking for external validation from people, friends, family, colleagues, and even complete strangers. Charles H. Cooley, a social psychologist, developed the looking-glass self-concept, and it illustrates why other people's opinions have such a big impact on how we think about ourselves. The looking-glass concept is as follows. First, we imagine how we appear to others. Then we imagine their judgment of that appearance. And then we develop our self-concept through the judgment of others. We will perceive the judgment as favorable or unfavorable, which will give us the feelings of pride or shame. I am not what I think I am, and I am not what you think I am. I am what I think that you think I am. Charles H. Cooley. We try and uphold this self-image through some seriously backwards logic. It's absolutely exhausting and insane to try and uphold this self-image through something as subjective as another person's opinion. Or even worse, your perception of someone else's opinion based on how you think they see you. That just sounds crazy. And it is. You can't control someone else's opinion, so this is a game that can't be won. I'll say it again. Constantly trying to validate your ideal self-image through the opinions of others is a doomed practice. You're basically handing over your self-worth to someone else. Oftentimes, people's opinions have nothing to do with you at all, so why give them this power? No one should have that kind of control over you, except yourself. Care about what other people think, and you will always be their prisoner. Lao Tzu. Opinions are random, fleeting figments of the imagination. According to Elizabeth Thornton, author of The Objective Leader, we tend to forget that people judge others based on a myriad of influences in their own mind. They could simply be having a bad day and project that negativity onto their opinion of you. It's silly when you think about what you're really doing. Think of a time when you've judged someone negatively just because you were in a bad mood. The same thing happens to you. That is why you should never, ever take anything personally. When someone lashes out at you or judges you or criticizes you, they're saying more about themselves than you. Their reaction has very little to do with you. When you judge another, you don't define them, you define yourself. Wayne Dyer. Why you should stop caring what other people think of you. Number 1, when you live your life based on the opinions of others, you're giving up your own authentic inner voice. You're not being your true self and not living to your potential. You won't be happy living a life dictated by other people. Number 2, people who live by their inner voice are leaders. Those that don't are followers. Followers are never the first to do something of importance. Number 3, you'll be more respected for being your own person and upholding your values, opinions, and morals. There is always someone who won't agree with your opinion no matter what it is, so why not express your real one? Number 4, you'll respect yourself more. If you live by your terms, you'll have a higher level of respect, happiness, and self-confidence. Number 5, when you're not putting your values first, you're not developing yourself or really doing any good. The world doesn't need more yes men. Pursue your own agenda. Go after your dreams and don't worry how it'll be perceived. Number 6, people who follow their inner voice are more interesting. You can tell who these people are because they have a genuine quality about them. Be genuine. Number 7, people who are guided by their own voice in the face of objection change the world. Inventors, visionaries, and creatives of all kinds are shunned and told that they don't know what they're talking about all the time. But they still do it and they change the world. Need examples of outcasts and people who stood up for their beliefs even when everyone was against them? Galileo, Joan of Arc, Martin Luther, Robert Oppenheimer, Vincent van Gogh, and Edgar Allan Poe, to name a few. Number 8, it's empowering. When you are true to yourself, you feel like you can do anything. Number 9, people will always judge you, and there isn't a damn thing you can do about it. Number 10, most people don't care what you're doing anyways. They don't care because they're too wrapped up in their own drama. They're probably too worried thinking about what other people think of them. You want proof? What's the first thing you look at when you look at a group photo? Probably yourself, right? People in social situations are the same way. They're focusing on themselves, not you. You wouldn't worry so much about what other people thought of you if you knew how seldomly they did. Unknown. Number 11, You don't need people to like you. If someone doesn't like you, it's not the end of the world. People will dislike you for absolutely no reason and for things that are beyond your control. You have to like you. That's what's important. How do we stop caring about others' opinions so much? We all have this ideal self in our heads that we're constantly bumping up against the external world for validation. Instead of relying on others' opinions to uphold your self-image, build your own self-concept that doesn't need external validation. We're fortunate enough to understand our mental models and to change them if they don't serve us. Here are a couple things you can do to get you out of this state. Step 1. Become aware of the game you're playing. Becoming aware of what you're doing is always the first step. Then contemplate on it for yourself. Don't take my word for it. The next time you realize you're basing what you're doing, saying, or feeling on someone else's perceived opinion, reflect on that and examine it. Awareness is the first step. You'll begin to see that when you base your self-worth on someone else's opinion of you, you can never win. You may win in the short term and get that little ego boost, but it's an unwinnable game. You'll constantly be in a state of vulnerability if you play this game. Step 2. Acknowledge that basing your self-worth on external opinions is a bad way to live. Develop a new mental model and strategy to live by. There's nothing stopping you from reinventing the way you act or think. Only you can hold yourself back from this new strategy. When you catch yourself in the act and change the way you respond, you're changing your mental model. Keep reinforcing, and over time, changes will become permanent. New habits will form. Additionally, determine why you want to get out of this external validation mental model. If you have a strong why, you'll be more inclined to stick with this new habit. If you don't have a strong why, it will crumble as quickly as it started. Step 3. Write down and become grounded in your values and morals. Find out how you really want to live your life. These are the characteristics that you believe are important, like honesty, integrity, respect, positive attitude, kindness, love, generosity, and so on. This will be your new moral compass. We may not be able to attain a level of perfection, but we can try each day and do the best we can in living our values. Making progress is enough. What's beautiful about this new way of living is that you don't have to wait. You can start living by your values and truths today. Use these new convictions to guide you, instead of letting other people's praise guide you to do things you don't really want to do. You have your own guidance system, and you must use it. Understand what you want in life and go for that. If you're living solely based on the approval and praise of other people, you're not truly living your life. You're living a life according to other people's rules and expectations. Living by your moral compass and values is a much more rewarding and fulfilling life rather than a life lived to please others. Step 4. Repeat the following affirmation out loud every day. I am totally independent of the good or bad opinions of others. Do this every single day. I'll admit, it felt a bit strange at first to say this out loud to myself, but it really works. It will slowly but surely reprogram your mind. This tip is from Deepak Chopra, a world-renowned author and spiritual leader. Those are the 4 most important steps to get started on today. I must stress something that took me a long time to learn. You don't need external praise if you're grounded in your own values. If you really know what you want in life and you focus on what's important to you, other people's opinions simply won't matter anymore. Compliments and praise are only reinforcing and validating that self-image. Say thanks if someone pays you a compliment, but don't let it influence you. 20 actions you can take moving forward. Now that you have an understanding and a new mindset, I want to give you some concrete actions you can take starting today to stop caring what other people think. These ideas and tips will help you to reinforce and internalize the previously discussed points. They will not only help with letting go of the opinions of others, but they will help you improve in many other areas in your life. Number 1, don't take things personally. I mentioned this earlier, but let's dive a little deeper. Look at things objectively and don't get defensive. If someone says something offensive to you, just let it bounce off of you or pass through you. Only you can give those words power by reacting to it. Ignoring someone's criticism is a stronger approach than reacting and feeding into it. However, this doesn't mean you can't take and consider constructive criticism. Constructive criticism is one way we can grow. Just don't let it become a way of life. Let your own guidance system control you, not someone else's. Look at all the great artists that have been criticized in the past and then became world-renowned. Criticism is only as important as the importance you place on it. Number 2, think before reacting to situations. Usually, we'll want to respond right away, especially if it feels like an attack on us. Instead, react in a way that is in line with your convictions. Don't become reactive. Slow down, think about what you're doing and saying, and then act. Number 3, kill your inner critic. There's another little voice inside your head besides your authentic voice that can be a real jerk. I like to think of it as an audience in your head that is analyzing the things you do and say. If you don't get control of it, it can take over like a class full of rowdy kids. When it comes up and says, "You can't do that," just dismiss it and move on. Don't dwell on it or overthink what this insecure voice says. Just squash it immediately and replace it with an empowering thought. Criticism is only as important as the importance you place on it. Number 4, go with it. If things become awkward or weird in whatever situation you're in, go with it. Be weird, it's fun. If you become nervous about something, go with it. And interestingly enough, that feeling goes away. The more you resist something, the worse it tends to become. Number 5, don't try to impress strangers. We have a tendency to want to impress new people we meet by telling them something interesting or special about us, or just flat out lying to them. You have nothing to prove. Instead, focus on your inner circle of people who truly matter. On that note, let me stress that your inner circle should love you for who you are and should accept your opinions as your opinions. If they don't love you for you, examine that relationship. Number 6, do something that you consider embarrassing. This will really help you break the mentality that other people's opinions really matter. You'll see that if you do something silly or embarrassing and someone thinks you're stupid, it doesn't really matter. Their opinion will only affect you as much as you let it. Other people's opinions truly don't matter. And nothing shows that more powerfully than by making a fool out of yourself on purpose. Number 7, learn to be comfortable in silence with another person. Number 8, be in a relaxed state. Don't rush and fumble with things when someone is waiting on you. For example, let's imagine you're in line in a grocery store and you're trying to pay and grab all your things. In this situation, do you feel like you're inconveniencing the people behind you? Do you feel rushed? Learn to catch yourself doing this. And instead, slow down, take your time when you're doing things, and don't worry about them. Be considerate to them, but also have some consideration for yourself. Number 9, stop reflecting over and over on things that went wrong during the day or in the past. Instead of doing that self-talk we've all done, I should have said this or that, accept what you said and move past it. Focus on the present instead of regretting the past. If you said something foolish, so what? They've probably already forgotten what you said, and in time, you too will forget. Things fade away as time goes on, and the sooner you put it behind you, the sooner you'll stop caring about it. Remember that embarrassing thing you did last year? Well, no one else does, so who cares? The embarrassing thing you did this week will soon disappear as well. Number 10, be mindful of your filter. Be aware of your own filter and do or say it anyway. Shut off the filter, or at least let it go a bit. I should mention to use reason here. I want you to speak your mind more often, but do so in a way that allows you to continue to treat people as you would like to be treated. If you're calling someone an idiot because that's how you feel, you're missing the point of using your inner voice. Your inner voice wouldn't say that. Your inner voice is the compassionate, concerned voice that cuts through the drama to see the person underneath. People who lash out at others or come across as rude are in pain. As they say, hurt people hurt people. Instead of lashing back, be more understanding and try to help them. Remember to forgive them, for they do not know what they're doing. The way to counter anger is through compassion. When you truly stop caring what others think, you'll also stop being so judgmental towards other people. It's a win-win. Number 11, be truthful with yourself and with others. Number 12, be open and vulnerable. People who are open seem much more human than people who close themselves off to the world. Because you see their vulnerable side, you feel like you can talk to them about anything. When they open up, it allows you to open up. The reverse is also true. Number 13, think of it as a game. Can you purposefully weird someone out and not become embarrassed or critical about yourself? It's actually quite fun to test people in this way. Don't be a jerk, just do something odd and see the reaction. Learn to be comfortable with awkwardness. If you treat it like a game at first, it won't be so uncomfortable, so it's a great place to start. When you do it with intent, you feel in control, so it's a good stepping stone. Number 14, consider your worst case scenario. If you did what your inner voice told you to do, what's the worst that could happen? And could you survive it? The answer is almost always going to be not much and yes. Most things we fear don't have a real physical consequence. Usually, it's just a psychological one. Except wrestling a lion. Lions can kill you, so don't do that. The worst case scenario will always be much milder than you think, and you're probably over-exaggerating the entire situation. You won't die if someone dislikes you or thinks you're a loser. In fact, let people think of you as a loser. It's actually a huge weight off your shoulders. If being a loser means having fewer fake friends, not having to show off or pretend to be someone I'm not, and being free from the expectations of others, then I'll take that. To me, that's a much more calm and peaceful way of life than being a slave to the endless chase for approval. Once you come to that realization, you won't fear the disapproval of others as much. Call me whatever you like. I am who I must be. Friedrich Nietzsche. Being cool is free. Acting cool will cost you. Your boos mean nothing.
I've seen what makes you cheer.
Rick Sanchez. Number 15, don't be a people pleaser. Being overly nice won't stop someone from judging you. In fact, being too much of a people pleaser will backfire. People will dislike you if you're always trying to cater to everyone. They'll think you're spineless and have no individuality or values. Number 16, learn to say no. If you don't want to do something, just say it and stand by it. Try it on smaller things first, and you'll see that it's not so bad. Number 17, surround yourself with people who are honest, self-assured, and direct. It is said that you're the combination of your 5 closest friends. If that's the case, have friends that stand up for their values and aren't afraid to speak their mind. Number 18, if you're single, ask someone out. Don't overthink it, just do it. If they say no, that's fine. You'll still feel good for having had the courage to do it. If someone declines your offer, it doesn't mean anything, and it's not a reflection of you. It just means you're not the right fit for them. To simplify this line of thought, here's an example. Just because a square peg doesn't fit in a round hole doesn't mean the square peg is bad or wrong. It's just not the right fit. This is an oversimplification, but it's the same thing with people. If you get declined, you're just not the right fit for them. That's all. Now, if they say yes, then don't be afraid to be yourself on that first date. Number 19, do things to put yourself out there. Experience what it's like to go out there and try not to care what other people are thinking. Make a list of things you fear doing because of your fear of ridicule or negative judgment, and do it. Don't just watch this video and do nothing. Take action. Start with one small thing to get out of your comfort zone and go from there. Number 20, become aware of any puppet masters in your life. Is there anyone in your life that you crave the approval of? If they're running your life, cut them off and learn to live your own life. If this person happens to be your partner, you need to have a clear and direct conversation with them about how you're feeling. Seek counseling if necessary. That's it. Those are the 20 actions you can start taking today to reduce the importance you place on other people's opinions. You don't have to do every single thing discussed, but do start with one of them. It's critical to take action. I also suggest you do the ones that scare you the most because that will help you grow and move through this mindset faster. A couple final thoughts. Who are you trying to impress and why? Really contemplate that in your daily interactions. Don't be afraid to be different from other people. Imagine if we all dressed, acted, talked, and thought the same way. Who really wants to live in a world like that? So get out there, be yourself, do what you love, and stop caring if someone thinks your ideas, clothes, or looks are silly. Remember, it's fine if someone mocks you, makes fun of your work, or thinks you're incompetent. Who cares? It's meaningless information. Stand up for yourself when necessary, of course, but remember that it's okay to be different or weird. It's okay for people to think your ideas and visions are dumb or won't work. Visionaries have to deal with these people and their criticism all the time. It won't kill you. What matters most is your opinion of yourself. That's all that matters. 2 last points to hit on. Not caring what other people think doesn't mean not caring about anything at all. Don't get those two confused. You can obviously still care about your family, work, and passions while at the same time reducing how much you care about others' inconsequential opinions. And number 2, some people will have the counter argument that they don't want to be considered an arrogant jerk. Therefore, they won't speak their mind or stand up for their beliefs. Being grounded in your own beliefs doesn't mean you have to be a jerk about it. It means you're going to find a happy medium that serves you. If you're watching this, you're probably too far left on the how much I care about others' opinions scale, and I wouldn't worry about going too far to the right. In fact, I encourage you to go too far to the right to break you out of your old habits. As time goes on, you can shift more to the center, but you may need a jolt to really move you out of that caring too much state. If you're living in fear because of what someone else might think of you and your ideas, then you're not being true to yourself. There are boundaries, obviously. All of this doesn't mean you can go around being a jerk and blasting your music at 2 a.m. It's not okay to be violent, offensive, selfish, and so on. But where is the line between not caring about what someone thinks and being selfish, offensive, and inconsiderate? That's for you to determine. But I say, if it's not illegal or immoral, it's fair game. Go for it. If you're not infringing on other people's rights, then it's a go. Follow the golden rule. If you wouldn't like something done to you, don't do it to someone else. Moving from someone who is worried about what everyone thinks to someone who does and says what they want without fear of negative opinions or jokes about them is an amazing transformation we should all make. Give it time and attention. Follow the steps and actions outlined in this video, and eventually it'll sink in and become internalized. As you practice, you'll begin to feel free for maybe the first time in your life. It's an amazing feeling when you can truly act like yourself and be yourself around others without fear. The pressure to please, conform, and get validation simply melts away. Thanks for watching, and I wish you the best. And remember, what other people think of me is none of my business. Wayne Dyer.